Welcome to In the Studio. My name is Steve Streeter. I'm the host today. The topic we'll be discussing is making in-home supportive services making a difference. And we have two guests today. First, I'll introduce Kim Britt. She is the manager of Public Authority and in-home supportive services for Yolo County. And our second guest is Kate Laddish. She's the chair of the In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee. So Kim, let's start with you. If you could tell us a little bit what the Public Authority is all about.
Sure. Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about in-home supportive services and Public Authority. I'll start off with in-home supportive services, if that's okay with you. And what I'd love everyone to know is the goal of in-home support services, which we call IHSS, and I'm sure you'll hear us say it a lot today, is to help people with disabilities remain safely in their home. So the program helps people avoid out-of-home placement, like in skilled nursing or could be board and care assistance, or to return home after institutional care by helping to pay for authorized domestic and personal care services. To be eligible for the program, there's a couple points that have to be met. First and foremost, it's a program that falls under the umbrella of Medi-Cal. So a person, in order to be eligible for IHSS, you have to be receiving Medi-Cal services. And then from there, a licensed healthcare professional has to certify that the person is at risk of out-of-home placement due to a disability that lasts a year or longer. Once that's been established, the process to be determined eligible for the in-home support services program, and then also determine if there's authorized hours to be authorized. A social worker or adult services worker from our office here will go out to the applicant's home and do a in-home assessment. And during that in-home assessment, they talk with the applicant to identify their strengths and needs. And it's from that information gathered that the social worker applies the applicable regulations to determine eligibility. If a person is eligible, some of the services that they may be able to have from in-home support services include things like personal care, which could be like dressing, feeding, or bowel and bladder care. Another common authorized service we have is domestic and related services. And so by that, it would be assistance with things like house cleaning, cooking, shopping, or laundry. There are a myriad of other, I think it's 26 total different types of services we have in IHSS, and each assessment is done on an individual basis. So it's important that when a person applies and has the meeting with their social worker, that they tell us about what sorts of things that they're finding to be challenging or unsafe to do on their own at home. And then this way, the social worker can do a full assessment and really be able to accurately assess the needs of the person. And one of the things I love best about IHSS is that as a recipient of that program and its benefits, you remain as the employer, so you are in charge of your care. So that gives you the right to hire, train, and schedule providers or caregivers that work for you and your needs. Applying for IHSS is super easy. All a person needs to do is they think they may be eligible or could use some assistance or just want even more information about the program. All you need to do is call our office, and that number is 530-661-2955. And what you'll see on the screen there is actually our phone number to the Public Authority, which is an excellent segue because that's what I will talk about next. The goal of the Public Authority for in-home support services is to make IHSS program work better. So it works better for consumers and for our providers and caregivers. It's actually a separate entity from the county, but we work very closely. And in fact, I oversee both programs. So it kind of tells you how closely related the two are. IHSS Public Authority serves as the employer of record for purposes of wage and benefit bargaining for the care providers here in Yolo County. But in addition to that, we also manage a provider registry, and we establish a referral system so that we can connect consumers of IHSS that are in need of a pre-screened caregiver. So this is a great way for folks that maybe don't have someone in mind, a friend, a family member, neighbor, maybe they don't have someone that is able to provide care. We can provide a list of potential caregivers that the IHSS consumer can then interview and decide whether or not they would like to hire them. In addition to this registry, we also run a specialized registry called Home Care Now, and that's specifically for our consumers who find themselves in an urgent situation where perhaps their regular care provider can't come to work, they're sick, or something's happened, they're not able to come to work for them. So a consumer can give our public authority a call and see if we have the Home Care Now provider available to do and fill that urgent need so that the consumer continues to get the care that they need to stay safely at home. And whether a person uses our regular registry or Home Care Now registry, or both, it's possible to do both, the consumer maintains their right as the employer. And I just think that's such an important thing. So they're still in charge of their care, whether they find their own provider or they use the public authority registries to do that. So in addition to those registries, the public authority also helps consumers understand and manage their employer responsibilities. We know that hiring a care provider, managing, scheduling, especially when multiple caregivers are involved, can be a lot to manage. So our staff are able to help folks, consumers of IHSS, sort of have tools and a deeper understanding of the process so that they can better manage those responsibilities. And also in addition to that, the public authority provides training for consumers and providers. We manage health benefits for eligible providers. And we have the great honor of staffing the IHSS Advisory Committee, which gives a voice to consumers and community members on how IHSS services are provided here in Yolo County. And if anyone is interested in accessing services through the public authority, or if you're someone that would like to explore maybe being a care provider, we are always constantly in recruitment mode for more providers. So please feel free to give us a call and learn more about being a care provider. And that's the 530-661-2676 number.
Great. Thank you, Kim, for that introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Kate, you happen to receive services and in-home support. If you could tell us your story.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Steve and Davis Media Access, for having us on today. And thank you, Kim, for that great introduction to both in-home supportive services and public authority, kind of the consumer and provider arms of this program. And so, as Steve said, I'm a care consumer. And so one of my experiences, early experiences actually, was just reading the definition of who qualified for IHSS. I thought, oh, I don't think I qualify, because I'd assumed in order to remain safely at home that that essentially things had to be more severe than what I had, until somebody from the program explained, no, it just means that there are activities of daily living you can't do safely. In other words, you're going to injure yourself, something like that. And so it's made a tremendous difference in being able to live safely at home independently. And it's an incredibly vital program. And it's one of the ways that helps keep people in the community of their choice. And so I think that the individuals as well as the communities benefit from that.
So if you could,
I'm also going to, oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to underscore something Kim said about that the consumers are the supervisor in the consumer care provider relationship, and I think that that's really important, because it gives people agency over what's going on and who's coming into their house, especially since for some people some of the activities are pretty personal. I mean, like Kim said, people can receive assistance with bathing, toileting, this sort of thing. And so you really want to make sure that people are comfortable with somebody who's doing that, as well as somebody who's going to be in your house or your apartment for other reasons, including laundry or help with meal preparation.
So Kate, if you could continue and talk about the advisory committee, please.
I would be delighted to talk about the advisory committee. I have boundless enthusiasm for the In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee. So the goal of the IHSS Advisory Committee is to give the 5,800 plus consumers and providers a voice in IHSS and public authority policy, program development, and operations. And this is done by advising, advocating, and making recommendations for the enhancement, availability, and quality of IHSS, and by promoting services that support a positive and productive relationship between consumers and providers. The IHSS Advisory Committee has 3 different groups represented on it. So there are consumers, and then there are providers, and then also there are a couple positions that are open to community members who are interested in the delivery of IHSS, but are neither consumers nor providers. We are, per our bylaws, a consumer majority committee. In disability rights circles and conversations, there's a saying, nothing about us without us. And so in other words, wanting to make sure that people with disabilities are included in the conversations and the policymaking discussions for the policies that affect the people with disabilities. And the IHSS Advisory Committee, as a consumer majority committee, really amplifies that approach.
Great, thanks for that information. Now the next thing I'd like you to both talk about is some of the advisory committee accomplishments over the past year or two.
So a couple months ago, a friend asked me, hey, so what does the IHSS Advisory Committee do? Are you all just meeting to have meetings? And we meet once a month, and I said, oh, no, here's what we do. And it's like, buckle up. So one of the things we started doing a few years ago was doing an annual presentation to the Board of Supervisors to bring them up to speed on what our committee's been doing over the past year, as well as to give them an idea of the types of discussions that we have and some of the ways that we have connections with other community organizations, and also kind of bring them up to date on the IHSS and public authority programs. It's also an opportunity, though, for us to express ways that the Board of Supervisors can take actions to support our mission. And that has proved to be really fruitful. When we do those presentations, we like to highlight some of our accomplishments from the past year. And some of our recent accomplishments that we're able to highlight recently include getting $200,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds from the county for a system of paid professional development training for providers. This will help providers and give them more training that they need, and also let them know just how important they are for the program. It will also help consumers, because the more appropriate and professional training the providers have, the better they'll be able to help consumers and help consumers remain safely at home. So that's one of our recent accomplishments. We have been very interested in increasing the emergency preparedness of consumers because of disabilities and because of limited finances and other reasons, are a group that are particularly have particular barriers to emergency preparedness. Because the IHSS program can't cover, for example, a provider helping a consumer assemble an emergency go bag, we finally decided, well, let's just see if we can get go bags for all current consumers. And we did. And this was a real partnership. We applied to and received a $1,000 donation from Partnership Health Plan of California, and Partnership administers Medi-Cal for our region. And a couple of our committee members also are on a partnership advisory committee. And then Yolo Healthy Aging Alliance administered that donation. Then Resources for Independent Living of Sacramento and Yolo counties donated 511 go bags that they'd gotten through a PG&E grant. And then, and this is the big drum roll, please. And thank you to Kim and Yolo County Health and Human Services for then funding the rest of the go bags. So this has been tremendous. It is actually a way that other counties have looked at it as a possible model to increase emergency preparedness of a particularly vulnerable population. And so that's ongoing. We're really excited about that. And something else that has been really important to our committee has been making sure that consumers who are unable to leave home would have access to the COVID-19 vaccination. And so this is something that we advocated for in-home vaccination for consumers who can't leave home when we presented to the Board of Supervisors in January of 2021. And we met with Brian Vaughn of Yolo County Public Health, I think the next day. And we were also, some of us, able to have a conversation with Dr. Amy Sisson, our health officer. And I believe 2 weeks later, when Dr. Sisson presented to the Board of Supervisors, she included that they were now planning to have an in-home vaccination program for people who couldn't leave home, and went above and beyond our request and expanded it beyond just IHSS consumers to anybody who couldn't leave home. This has now expanded and become Yolo County's groundbreaking DoorVax program, the call to order vaccination program. So the presentations to the Board of Supervisors, the paid professional development training for providers, the emergency go bags for consumers, and the in-home vaccination programs are some of our recent accomplishments.
Great. Thank you for sharing that information. We were getting to a time to wrap up, actually. And so thank you both for being here today. And we thank Diane Dodashko from Davis Media Access for her role in producing the interview. So thanks again for Kim and Kate for sharing your knowledge of in-home supportive services.